beautiful boy with the blue eyes of Ireland and the Kansas sky. Black hair like a raven and his father's father too. Itihia is a room of ice cool. Itihia is a room of ice cool. Your daddy didn't have a dime for the picture show. You were raised on empty pockets, or so I have been told. So you work just like a warrior. How we'd hate to see you leave. We didn't see the way you wore your heart upon your sleeve till you were old.
Actions speak louder than words. The chronicle of this podcast starts with a conversation that occurred in 1980 between Gene Healy and his youngest daughter, who was about to leave his home and enter the world for the first time. Gene was a fourth-generation Irishman. He was born and raised during the Great Depression in Wilson, Kansas. He served in the Air Force during World War II, and at war's end married his sweetheart from the neighboring town of Ellsworth. He moved his bride to a small Iowa college town and worked as a laborer, drilling water wells. In his later years, as he drove the back roads of Iowa, he would point out each well to whoever was along for the ride. He could recall the year the well was placed, its depth, the conditions, and the men he was working with at that time. He could also spot a patch of wild asparagus hiding in a dirt road ditch like an eagle. As his family expanded, he purchased an instruction manual and built a substantial brick home on 20 acres on the top of a hill. Gene had plenty of room for gardens and fruit trees and all of his equipment. He moved his family into their home just after his fifth baby was born. As rugged as his work, Gene was kind, gentle. He was the kind of man who shed tears for a small kitten lost to the start of an engine. He was a quiet, humble man of faith with a great sense of humor, and he typically held a grin on his face as if he were recalling a funny story shared with him by one of his many visitors to the shop. Gene would joke that he went to the school of hard knocks, or that he was a jack of all trades, master of none. He was a voracious reader, an entrepreneur, and hard work was all he knew to make his family a better life. He was the epitome of a modest intellect, never earning a degree. His youngest graduated high school when she was 17. After listening to the news one day, Gene pulled her aside and solemnly said, "I am so sorry we are leaving this mess to your generation. You're going to have to rebel." His daughter clearly didn't understand what he was talking about, and he must have seen the look on her face. So he took her hands, looked her straight in the eye, and said, "They're going to destroy the middle class. Someday you must fight back." At the time, Gene's daughter was focused on her next steps in life. He had suggested a degree in engineering, but she took one course and was much too intimidated, as she was the only female in a class of 500. So instead, she followed in her sister's footsteps and became a registered nurse. For 10 years, she worked in a variety of cardiac care units in multiple hospitals, always focused on mastering the technology of the job. She loved nursing until she began to question the benefits of the intensive procedures and the quality of care being provided. Her father raised her to have a strong business acumen. He taught her how to invest and watch the market at the dinner table as he talked about his Winnebago holdings. So upon leaving the hospital, she decided to learn more about the financial side of healthcare. She took a leap of faith and landed a position at a large global financial institution. The floodgates had been lifted. She immersed herself into this brand new world And like her father, she constantly had her nose in a book. And at the very first chance, she went back to school for an MBA. As she worked towards her degree, a compulsion to examine how corporate America shifted and moved, merged and acquiesced grew within her. She explored the relationships between employers, healthcare providers, government legislation, big house insurance companies, and brokerage firms. She worked with employers of all sizes, unions, large school boards, government leaders. Jeanne Healy's daughter worked to master two of the most complex ecosystems in the United States, the healthcare delivery and health insurance industries. She referred to her lifelong study as simply following the money. And over the years of watching these ecosystems, she adopted the adage, "It's designed chaos, 'cause ain't nobody stupid." The first headline that made her sit up and take notice was, "American workers have not had a wage increase in over 20 years due to the cost of health care." By 2001, NIH reported that 30% of America's healthcare dollar was earmarked for fraud, waste, and abuse. 20 years later, industry insiders estimate that percentage to be closer to 60. 80% of America's medical services and procedures are elective, and medical errors are the third leading cause of death. 12 million Americans are misdiagnosed each year, and half of those errors have the potential to cause serious harm. America's healthcare is the lowest in quality and highest in cost compared to all other developed nations. Jeanne Healy's daughter found herself in a profession that for the past 40 years had an integral part in crippling Americans' middle class. A middle class who were ultimately paying for it all. And the salt in the wound? It is all by design. Jeanne's daughter watched as people began to forego medical care, who could not afford to go to the doctor or renew their medications, even when they had health care coverage through their employer. High deductible health plans? Maybe not such a good idea. Patients foregoing appropriate care while the rich get richer? Unacceptable. She heard the rally cry of some folks demanding Medicare for all, which in her humble opinion is a complete and utter oversimplified solution to all the problems at hand. The United States government doling out health care? Nobody really wants that. She knew that fixing healthcare started with the American employee. She knew that what we needed was total transparency from a cost and quality perspective. We needed competition between all the players. We need to break up the monopolies that exist within markets. In her mind, healthcare was out of control for one reason. Emotions are tied to it, and emotions are easily manipulated. The topping on the cake, the last straw, the one that sent her over the edge to take action. Our leaders have killed small business, ruined our economy, when the survival rate of 99.8% wasn't good enough. The minute authorities stood and said, "We're tagging them all regardless of any comorbidity," Jeanne's daughter knew the fix was in. There is a complete lack of treatment instruction coming from our government, and now physician voices are being censored. Half of our doctors and nurses have been institutionalized. The other half are burning out at an unprecedented rate. The good ones are walking away from their beloved profession. Solutions to lower the cost and improve the quality of care exist. Solutions that were created by registered nurses 30 years ago. All you need to fix healthcare is a strong team of registered nurses, a way to cut checks, and a strong stop-loss partner. Unfortunately, the American employee does not know about anything that's going on behind closed doors of their employer's boardroom. Corporate America is standing in the way, and America's C-suite has a list of excuses to remain oblivious. Jeanne's daughter walked away from her own corporate position at a brokerage firm. She wrote a book, started her own company, all so that she could tell the truth to the American employee. Most importantly, she joined an army of like-minded people who call themselves disruptors. These people are subject matter experts who grew frustrated by the level of fraud, waste, and abuse within their own broken piece of the puzzle. They come from all sectors within both industries. The healthcare disruptors are arc builders. They are focused on creating a new system based on science, data, humanity, and most importantly, one that is economically feasible and transparent. This podcast is dedicated to Jeanne Healy and all the other hardworking Americans who are willing to dial in, learn how to fight back, and be a part of the revolution to set things straight for middle-class America. I am your host, Jeannie Moore. I am my father's daughter. Happy birthday, Dad.